Welcome to the Jungle Brothers podcast. I'm your host, Joey, and today Paulie and I are chatting all about bodyweight strength training. We look at the key considerations for anyone who's looking to get stronger using just their body weight. So whether you're new to the game and you're trying to get your first set of push-ups or perhaps your first chin-up, or you're someone that's chasing more advanced skills like ring muscle ups, shoulder rolls, that kind of thing, these same laws or considerations will apply. It's also a really handy chat for anyone who just wants to understand better how bodyweight strength training fits into a more global approach to building a strong body. Now, just a note, we've got our Coaches Intensive coming up next month. That's June 18th and 19th. And in this course, you can learn how to become a world-class coach and build a successful PT business. This 2-day course will teach you all of the key skill sets required to become an industry-leading coach and create your own successful PT biz. These are the same skills that we've used to build our flagship gym here at Botany, Jungle Brothers, and this is the same course that we've used to consistently produce industry-leading coaches from this space. Upon completion, you'll become eligible to join the Jungle Alliance, which means that you can work in any allied gym. You don't have to be a coach to enroll. There are no prerequisites besides being a good, motivated human. If you would like more information on the course, go to junglealliance.com, click the courses tab. You can get all the info and you can enroll there. And as a listener of the podcast, you can get 20% off. Simply use the code JBPodcast. All right, on to the chat about bodyweight strength. Enjoy.
Fix his age.
Yamcha, I wish I came from a place where it was the weekly breakfast.
Is it actually that way in China, or is that adapted to the Western?
I don't even know. I remember having yamcha in Hong Kong, and the way that seemed was like something that was going on every day. It's pretty low key.
I had a friend, Chinese, in year 7 or primary school. It's a bit blurry, but that was Philip Wong was his name, I think. But yeah, I'd go to his place after school to hang out. And when we got home, the school bags went down and his mum poured out like a little soup with like 2 dumplings in it.
Oh.
And it was like after a day at school, just coming into like a little hot broth with a couple of dumplings in it. It's just so nice.
That's so good.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fucking bang on too, because I would come home and have some bread with some jam and a Milo, which is like you got a bit of fat, maybe a tiny bit of protein in the milk, but basically it's sugar.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is to carry you through till dinner. But for a kid, like a bit of broth, like heaps of protein in that. And then the dump, like it's a good, solid little meal.
I love the Japanese breakfast too, which is like the little bowl of rice and a piece of cured fish.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
I remember, didn't we get that in the ryokans for breakfast if you tick that option?
Right.
Little thing of pickles.
I don't remember the mornings of our time in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, little thing of pickles.
A thing of pickles and a piece of fish, and a little bowl of rice, probably a little hot little soup or something like that. That's it.
It's fucking perfect.
Love it.
Yeah, it's mad. Oh, man. Yeah, some dumplings after school. I'd go to my buddy Marco's place because his mum would always have the good snacks. But the good snacks were some light and tangy thins, maybe a snack, pickles. He introduced me to eating a pickle. Like, oh, here's a jar of pickles.
Okay.
And, you just bite it, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. But that was my little after school treat if I could like get to hang at his place.
Monji's parents, because Monji's so big, just thick, they just had this never-ending supply of Weet-Bix and milk. Like first time I opened the door, and he's a single child. It's 4 litres of milk in there, all the time, and a huge jar of sultanas. And I'd never had Weet-Bix and sultanas because it was always like white sugar all over that. And anyway, yeah, so he'd get out like 8 Weet-Bix, pour heaps of milk in it, and then just sultanas all over it. And that was every time we went to his house, we'd just go boom, straight in the kitchen, sultanas or Weet-Bix, and it's never left me. I'll often get the sultanas out and put it on the Weet-Bix.
I'm guessing it's nice.
It's nice.
I've never had it.
It's sugary. It's the balance.
I guess it hits it. Yeah, I was always sugar, or these days it's honey.
It's honey. No one eats Weet-Bix the way that it is.
Fuck no.
It's like they know that. It's like
we give Weet-Bix to Leo sometimes.
yeah.
And like I think
Kids have it.
maybe when he was 6 months old or whatever, he would eat it.
Mm.
But then as soon as he had some other breakfast, as soon as we gave him like, I give him that chicken drumstick, I'll give him an egg. Actually, he didn't like eggs in the beginning. But if you gave him meat, I was like, miss, let's just give him some of the dinner. And she was like, oh, okay. Like it didn't occur to her. You like give him some curry or something and he's so into it. Now when you give him the Weet-Bix, he just fucking shuns it. Yeah. Like what is this mush?
Cardboard and milk.
It's what it looks like, isn't it?
Yeah. Now you have to put something with it.
Tell me you made recent changes to the Bodyweight program and we were both away. So you've kind of made them since coming back. I'm guessing you were thinking about it a bit while you were off.
Yeah.
What, catch me up on it. I had a little bit of input.
Oh, okay.
Largely it was your project. What's been the
catalyst for it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a long time coming. I think with any program, even if it's the program that works, people want to see something a little different. Just to change things up. Like often to get to a certain goal, you can take different paths there. So, there's no problem with changing it up and doing it slightly different. Plus, we learn things and everything that we do here is an evolution. And after observing it for some time, we thought, we could be doing it better. We got a bit of feedback from the gym. We wanted to make the changes. So, we always put the survey out, and this is just a survey for everyone to ask them, about their experience in the gym. But we were looking really at the product, the classes, and the times and stuff like that. And we had an inkling of some changes we wanted to make, and it was confirmed by the results. Yep, let's go ahead and make those changes, and that's where we are now. So inside of our Bodyweight program, there's a system. That system helps us to develop people progressively as a tribe. So when you've got 16 people in the class and, a couple of hundred members, it's a system that you can lean back on so that everyone's progressing upward. Is that mine? New phone.
That new phone ringtone.
Oh.
Like I'm not familiar with this.
Haven't changed the settings yet.
Oh shit, I didn't even acknowledge it. You got it.
I got it.
Paul got a Google.
I went for the 6, but they didn't have it in stock, so I just got the Pro.
Let me see that. This is the nicer one than the 6?
Yep.
Look at that.
It's actually been a pain in the ass this week.
Is that a case that's on it? Or is that...
It's a case, back case, but there was no screen covers, so I'm living dangerously.
Bruh.
You know how I am.
Fucking hell.
James Dean in this bitch.
Bruh, that's super nice.
Yeah.
I just transitioned, for the listeners, I just transitioned back to Apple after many years on Google phone. It's amazing how many Apple users are like, oh, I just sent you a text message and you're back on Apple, welcome. Like,
they know.
Yeah, because the colouring of the text message, when it's red and when it's not. Yeah, people are like, oh, fuck it, thank God.
I'm semi-regretting it a little because there's some things that are just not working this week.
Oh. Don't go into it. You
Don't
just
go
depress
into
yourself.
It. So, the Bodyweight program, what was I saying? Yeah, it's an evolution. So we're always trying to make it better, freshen it up a little bit, and give the people what they need. So, made some changes inside of it. Just a brief overview for people who don't know. We have like a mastery system inside of the Bodyweight program where there's a ladder of progressions. We start on the bottom rung, and in order to move up and change that movement that you're working on in the Bodyweight class that you attend, you have to master that. So you have to be able to perform it to the sets and rep range that we prescribed, and you have to be able to do it with certain understanding and quality, and then you get approved to move up.
I realise now why you listed the movements vertically from 1 to 10.
Oh, yes.
Because I'm like, because 1 going down, 1 to 10, you're like, that makes sense for how we read, but it doesn't make, it's an inverted ladder.
It's a ladder.
Yeah, so it should go from bottom to top.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to change the design of it so people are around it more.
This is the poster that's used to visually describe the ladder.
Because I was like, new people come in, it's a ladder and you move up the rungs, but this poster's going down.
Yeah.
Like, fuck. So that ladder of progressions, that's what have changed. We had 5 ladders, and now we've split it into 6, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 5 into 6. We took one away, we added a couple, and we made changes to the progressions inside of them, and that's where we are now. So we're in this 4-week phase where we are giving everyone the chance to look at them, get familiar with them, try the movements, and see where they are on that ladder of progressions. So they're working with the coaches and figuring out where they need to be. Obviously not trying to climb up too high, put them on the sweet spot, so they're off and running.
It's cool. When you look at the ladders, like I'm just looking, there's a small printer on the board behind where Paul's sitting. It's easy like to look at that because there's 10 progressions I've noticed, which is nice. You've uniformed how many rungs there are on each ladder, which is nice.
Yep.
So there's 10. The beauty, the deceptive part is you look at it and you're like, oh my God, there's so many exercises. Like there's 60 exercises I'm looking at right now. But it's like, no, if you're a new person, you only need to know one. The relevant one exercise in each of those categories that's suitable for you. So that's 6 exercises you need to commit to memory and just keep doing them until you feel like you've mastered that one, and then that one will change.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's such a nice way to simplify
a
pretty daunting kind of thing, especially for a new person looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah, so about the 10 rungs, I wanted to uniform it.
Naturally.
And in recreating it and making it uniform, the question popped up about the gym's movement milestones. So in the gym, we have a poster of movement milestones. They're not necessarily progressions, linear progressions to get to a movement, but they're just checkpoints. Yeah, they get harder as they move up to the alpha version of that particular ladder, but it's just to give people a perspective of where they are in the field of movement. And that's split into 3 categories for simplicity: lift, body weight, and mobility. And then there's a few different columns in there. And then based on whichever kind of thing that you can do, there's a rank for that. So what I've done is I've gone and I worked with you on that, and Ty got some feedback from the coaches, and we've recreated that. So the body weight movement milestone ladder, for lack of a better term, relates to the 10th rung here. So all the 10th rungs on this mastery system that we've got in the bodyweight classes relates to I think it's 7th or 8th progression on the movement milestones before you start becoming an alpha.
Ah, very nice. So what's that, like 3/4 of a way up the ladder?
Yep.
Okay, that's nice.
Yep. So whatever that is, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Did you go 10 progressions on movement milestones too, or did you keep? Because I think it was at around 5 or 6.
It's 2, 4. Yeah, it's about 6.
What do we got?
7.
We got cub, juvenile, adult, or hatchling.
Yeah, hatchling,
cub,
juvenile. And elder has 2 for body weight,
right?
And alpha has 2.
Ah, okay.
But then for the others, they don't all have 2. Lift has 2 for elder and 1 for alpha. So lift has 3, 6. And then mobility has 6 as well.
Right on.
It's an extra one in there for body weight.
That's cool.
Yep. Yeah, so it should marry up well and to the milestones. And this is just me trying to help develop with a system inside of the gym for people, help them know where they are in the scheme of the tribe in terms of, like, we're trying to develop all different attributes in here because what we do can get confusing. You look to that, the programming, it dovetails onto that so that we're continuing to develop those milestones for them inside of the program. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. So we're in this 4 weeks where everyone's getting used to it and we're getting feedback from the coaches. We're watching how it performs on the floor. And copying some feedback from the members as well. And after these 4 weeks, we'll go ahead and get into the program using these new ladders. So that's where we're at the moment.
That's dope. Yeah, it's to give a bit of context about like sort of how we ended up developing these models, they kind of come about because it can be so easy. And I was responsible for programming a lot of the bodyweight stuff for a long time before it was called that, back in the days of jungle gymnastics for the OGs.
Hey, you know the survey?
I looked at the results. Bring back jungle gymnastics.
Yeah.
Like like any time you could write your own response.
Someone just wrote that every time. I nailed Rob Cooper about it. He swears it wasn't him.
Oh, really?
So I need to find out who that was.
Who the fuck else in this place remembers that program? Which, when I did that program, it was awesome. But I loved it. I think a lot of people enjoyed it. It was very fun. But it didn't have that structure where it was moving you towards specific goals. It was like, oh, let's explore this for a while, and then the next training cycle, and each cycle would be 6 or 8 weeks, like good consistency. But you might go from, oh, we're doing a bunch of handstand stuff to, oh, now we're on the rings, oh, now we're doing a bunch of locomotion, which is really great. But perhaps for someone over a longer timeline, they're like, well, my handstand hasn't really gotten much better because I'm just not doing it consistently. So that evolution with the bodyweight program that really was T's creation. Was designed to deal with that from that micro perspective, wasn't it, of that one program? It's like, all right, bodyweight is now going to develop these attributes.
Yep.
The movement milestones was like, we actually developed that prior, didn't we? And that was like, well, how do we take everything we're doing in the gym and put it, so for someone that's in here, like doing some lift, some bodyweight, some S&M, they're like, well, where am I moving? And we're like, fuck, okay, the movement milestones will show them the pathway. But as can happen, things evolve, and then before you realize, you're like, oh, the programming's not really holding true to whatever, developing what we wrote on that poster 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool you did that. You've done all that because it was in need of like renewal. And I mean, I'm guessing, tell me from a programming perspective, it kind of guides your thinking, makes it a bit easier.
Absolutely.
To just put stuff out.
Yeah, totally. And it doesn't mean to say that anything's going to be boring. It's just more organized and more efficient and less brain power for us and less brain power for members. They're like, oh, that's how it works. That's the structure, and this is where I am inside of it. So yeah, it's really cool. I think the success of it relies on how we, after this 4 weeks, how we communicate it and carry it going forward. You know what I mean? Like, we need to get some good design posters, put them in place, introduce them to the tribe, get a system around checking in with the movement milestones, and then continuing to make sure that the programming reflects the development of those milestones.
Yeah.
Doesn't waver too far off track because, most of our people need that middle ground, those basic movement patterns, getting strong in those.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the end result there is like the beyond the brain power piece is that people get better results, don't they?
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
all time spent training is going towards consistent things. There's a good amount of volume to develop these particular attributes.
Yep. Rather
than there's a little bit of time on that attribute, a little bit of time on that one, but they're unrelated.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm pumped.
That's sick. I always get a little bit jealous of deadlifting gyms in a discussion like this because all they do is put up a blackboard and you have 3 columns, squat, bench, dead. And it's like, that's what we work on here,
Yep.
And you're like, fuck, how good's that? What lift am I doing today? Squat today.
Guaranteed results.
It's like, you do your primary, you do a couple activation drills, do your warm up, and then it's like, do you whatever, your work sets, and then here's 2 accessory exercises.
Yeah.
And then you just, and there is, I think, with weightlifting in totality, like Olympic weightlifting, but also powerlifting, which is a much more simplified version of lifting a barbell. I think people enjoy that simplicity. Totally. I think that is what makes it very successful as a training pursuit for individuals. It's just easy to wrap your head around.
Thinking about it as you're talking about it makes me smile. Like, I like that thought.
Yeah.
I like that simplicity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice. And I mean, even CrossFit in a way, CrossFit has a lot of like skills, as they call it, that they want to develop.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not about developing skills. It's about developing fitness, which is smart when I'm thinking about it through this lens looking at it through this lens, because if it's about fitness, then it's like, well, it doesn't matter what you're doing today. It's a challenge. You're getting fitter. And it's increased work capacity across broad time and modal domains. So it's basically saying, we're going to make you fitter at doing random shit, full stop. Which then also just removes the need to, well, how's your handstand push-up? Doesn't matter. I'm getting fitter.
Yeah.
You know, I did some a couple of weeks ago, but we're doing, whatever, muscle-up progressions today or something. Whereas, and, for us, it's like, where's your handstand at? Where's your muscle-up at? It's not, hey, where's your strength or where's your body awareness or where's your fitness at? It's like, where are these specific movements?
Absolutely.
So obviously the way we do it is better and it's more noble. But there's a challenge. There's like a distinct challenge that comes with that.
Probably the CrossFit is going to outrun you at City to Surf, though.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. They're going to kick your ass at the mud race.
Who cares? You're at Kalutzi's getting a fucking panini, bro.
I'm just doing some hip mobility over here.
Yeah. I'm super stoked, and I'm looking forward to seeing. Like I can guarantee there's going to be gains for people here. The way that we've split it up, so there's some more focused upper body work. I think, there's going to be guaranteed gains in the gym. So I'm pumped for that.
I think it's good to mention, like, we've had, 8 years of programming relevant to this style, like 8 years of gym programming relevant to bodyweight, calisthenics, whether it be gymnastics or bodyweight by name. It would be very easy to just go through and reuse a lot of that stuff. And that would keep it fresh. You could just bring back gymnastics and everyone except for that one person would be like, wow, this stuff's awesome. What is it? It's brand new to me. But the reality is that our views on it change. Our views on how to develop those attributes and capacities are constantly evolving. And so with that, it's like you can't help but, like, if you're honest about what it is that you're slanging at your gym to your members, you have an obligation to reinvent the programming periodically.
Absolutely.
Because what will change, how you see it will evolve. And so I just think it's a cool thing to point out, like, that what you've got now is awesome, and it's one way of having improved what was there before, but it will improve again. Yeah, and totally. It will always change. Yeah. And that's kind of a nice thing to point out between gyms that, like, are really trying and really care with that about the training versus the ones that are just helping you get a sweat. Like, there's so much time and creative sort of energy that goes into building something like that.
Yeah.
And getting all the coaches on board and making sure they know all the new movements. And
the other thing that is actually a big factor in the changes that we made here, and is also going to happen off the back of the survey in some of the other programs, which is that people change as well. And the living situation and how everyone's experiencing their lives as a community here has changed, like post-COVID. And in the same way as...
In what way?
Oh, like in the same way that I freaking didn't want to do my strength program or something, and I've lost interest because there's other stress going on outside. I need to, like, change my program because I'm not going to do that one because it's a little too far reaching or intense. I need to do something else to keep me going. I think that people right now want to not tackle too high complex movements and programs right now. I feel like people have told us they want more stretch stuff, and I feel like, hell, most of my clients need more of that, and a lot of the members I see, and people want to come in here and hit the basics, get really good at those, and have some really good interactions in class, as opposed to doing a couple of really technical movements that they're trying to nail that has slower progress, Yeah. So I think it's definitely influencing how I'm thinking. And this year I've come into just thinking about programming is much simpler for myself, my clients and everything. It's just like, let's just hit right in the middle and make sure we're taking care of that and keeping people going and happy and functioning. Because, yeah, post-COVID, there's definitely a hangover and it's still hanging about. But everyone's going through an adjustment phase, what with their jobs, their works. I just feel like everything's just a little different in how we're living now. Do you feel that in Sydney?
Maybe. It's hard for me to tell because I think because I've had a kid, and so that's been the last year and a couple months for me. And so things have changed a lot for me, but I'm like, is that me or is that, whatever, the zeitgeist, of where we're living in. But it sounds completely reasonable. But yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people are still finding their groove again. It was a pretty rough start to the year with Omicron and all that stuff. We had a 2-week lockdown this year, didn't we?
Shit, I can't remember
What it was?
I went into a lockdown for 2 weeks this year.
Yeah, with your family isolating.
Yeah.
I mean, even that, it's like, there's things still aren't back to just however they were.
Yeah, and it's not to say people are afraid of going into gyms, but I think just everyone's situations have slightly changed.
Yeah.
And, spending so long out of the gym has made people kind of just rethink. Other options have popped up. And, yeah, I think that, I just think it's a little different. And, simplifying the program is one thing, but it's the change factor as well. It's like, just want to change and relight the fire and just go for it. So, yeah, that's definitely influencing that as well. I hate to bring up, I actually was like, because I was on holiday thinking about this, as you said, and I was coming back and I was going to put a freestyle, an older program on while I worked this shit out. And then I was like, no, I'm finishing this now for tomorrow. And I changed it all overnight. Like I'd already been working on it, but I released it early, pissed a lot of people off. But it just had to be done.
Get it out there.
Yeah. So, yeah.
We can report back on incoming gains in the coming months.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the elements of bodyweight strength training, calisthenics, call it what you want. But I thought it'd be cool to explore kind of the key sort of elements about what makes it unique and how people can approach it better. Because it is, if you can kind of pick up from what we've spoken about already for those listening, it is more of a complex beast often than just developing, barbell strength work as an example, or even bodybuilding. Both of those things are a bit more simplistic in their approach. Bodyweight strength, you're dealing with there's a large skill and mobility component to it. Not to say that there's not elements of skill and mobility in the aforementioned things, but I would say there's the most in bodyweight. From your perspective, Paul, and I throw this question at you because I've seen your training, like you've really dived into your bodyweight strength work in the last, I feel like it's really ramped up in the last, 12, 18 months.
Yeah.
But probably the last couple of years has been a big journey for you, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the main part of my training.
What makes it good? Like why do you like it?
I guess many reasons, but probably I always say to people, like, I really like it because to get any good at it, you have to develop a certain level of self and body awareness and discipline. So like whenever I do training, I try to do training that's, that's not just developing the muscle, but it's developing something else. And I look at the training as it's developing me as a person because of that fact. And the reason being is because when you do bodyweight training, you're not locked into a bench that has, external support on your side and it really isolates one joint that you just have to pull. You really have to be aware of every movement that you're doing. And to get the best out of it and progress, you have to build more and more awareness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's less external stability and I'm speaking generally. So you have to learn shit. And then when you do it, in your one rep, you can either get heaps out of it or half, depending on how you apply yourself to that one rep. Because you can just break the line or you can just shift your weight forward a little bit and it's all compensated, you know? So, yeah, you need awareness. So you need to be able to like isolate movements. You've got to really be onto motor control. And then, you're not going to get anywhere if you just like go into it trying to get the program ripped and done, you know?
Tick the box.
Tick the box. I really like that part of it mainly, and I like that journey for anyone.
Well, you can, and that's called calisthenics.
There's the difference. No.
Pointing to the kind of lack of quality that you see in a lot of typical calisthenics work versus gymnastic strength training that is a lot more refined.
Yeah. And I guess
no shade on the calisthenics folks. You guys are strong too.
Very strong and very capable, for sure. But yeah, that's one big thing. I mean, you can do it anywhere and everywhere. Obviously, that's one cool thing. But I really love what you can do with it. You know what I mean? Like, for me, like I really love martial arts, and I like dancing and break dancing, and I like, to me that's body weight stuff. So like for me, being able to throw my body around that's the coolest thing for me that I love, as opposed to being able to throw a weight around or something, which is also cool to me. But I like the feeling of body weight movements, you know? It's like you have a certain amount of control when you're doing a rep or when you're walking around, and you feel really good on the weekend. Just look at a wall or a tree, not that you're about to bust out parkour, but it's just a bunch of confidence. And that comes with training as well. But I love the feeling that and the empowerment that it gives you.
That's cool. Yeah.
Is that too high level?
No, not at all. I think that's really relevant. Like just that, like from a practical perspective, like spend a lot of time at the park these days because the kids love to be at the park. It's great to get the kids out to the park.
So good.
You're there, you got a pram, you got, whatever, you got the stuff. And, kids want to play. There's a pull-up bar or some dip bars or something. You can go and do some shit. Do some stretching, do a few sets of chin-ups, like whatever. You can just incorporate a little bit of movement into that day or that couple of hours versus I'm not exercising today because I don't have my equipment, like I don't have my barbell here, or I do dumbbell training or whatever. It's like it just seems like it's quite a liberated sort of feeling, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I also thought for me, the body weight to strength ratio thing works well for me, in terms of like, just keeping me in check with, where my body is, where my strength is in relation to my body weight. And I think it's a really good marker. Now, obviously there's different body types, and, there's certain aspects of body weight training that, because of a body type, you would never be able to achieve. Would you agree?
Yes. Or it'd be really, really, really hard.
Yeah, it'd be really, really hard. Yeah. Or it's just, it's not something that someone else focuses on. But for me, I really like, that keeps me like, okay, I do this movement that I used to be able to do, and it's quite easy for me to measure where I am and how I'm tracking, and that it's just like it lets me know where I'm at. What
might be an example of that?
Pull, For me, it's always pull. That's my nemesis.
Right.
Not great at it. And it never comes easy, and I dread it whenever I'm doing bent arm, that is.
Yeah.
Love straight arm.
Yeah.
But it's always that. It's a good measuring stick for whatever my weight and my strength and my conditioning. I can easily go up and do a set and go, okay, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. We're still there.
We're still there. We've gone back there. Went on holiday for a few weeks. But I just love the feeling, man.
I was thinking that the other day. I ran into someone and they were like, "Oh man, I saw you doing your rope climbs on Instagram." They're like, "It's fucking awesome, bro." And I was thinking about it, and I was like, "Yeah, rope climbs are mad." And I haven't done them for a while. And then I thought, man, I'm gonna be 40 in a couple of years. Yeah, it would be of all things, I would really like to be able to keep doing rope climbs.
Yeah, totally.
Like, man, if you could be doing that when you're in your 50s, 60s, that's sick.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that speaks to so much more than like, I could, whatever, do a pendlay row or a bent over barbell row with, 85 kilos. I was like, no, I'd rather be able to haul myself up and down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me about some of the key concepts relevant to bodyweight training. And I got a little list here. For folks listening, stuff you might be aware of, but maybe it's new information to you. And if you can understand these concepts, then it's going to allow you to just get more out of it. And these are relevant. Like, a lot of this is not exclusive to bodyweight training, but they're the key characteristics. Talk to me about range of motion.
Yeah, look, this where we're going now is also why I like bodyweight training, because I like the technical aspects of it. Like, used to be lighting technicians. I like to know something. And yeah, this shit's just really interesting for me. So yeah, shit's harder when you perform a movement through a larger range of motion. When you go into, it's harder, it's more impressive, it's heavier often, whether it be at the hip or at the shoulders. There's so many different planes of movement. Gymnastics being kind of at the highest end of bodyweight training. If you look closely at what they're doing, they're generally moving in crazy ranges of motion. But yeah, the further you increase that, the harder it is. And it's easier in the middle of your range of motion than it is on both other ends.
Right, yeah, the extremes. And you could make the case that it's like you can develop, two things. Having strength through your full range of motion, or as much of it as possible, ultimately makes you a stronger person. Mm-hmm. Like, if my shoulders are strong overhead, behind me, pulled up behind my back, like, if I've got all of this strength development, I'm going to have really strong fucking shoulders. But if I'm only strong in just overhead pressing or just doing push-ups, it's a bodyweight example, but it's still just one plane, but I haven't developed any of those other aspects, then it's like, the shoulder's underdeveloped. So I think, bodyweight training allows you to just go into those ranges unlike anything else does. The other part I was going to say is that there's it gives you the opportunity to go into those ranges, because, you look at like what's happening on the rings, like a skin the cat or something like that. Like, it's very fucking hard to do a movement like that to replicate that kind of, I don't know, like holistic development of the shoulder with, say, a weight, even if it's a kettlebell or something that you're swinging around. So there's an opportunity to develop aspects of your joints that is not as easily available with more conventional styles of training. Yeah. Well, conventional is the wrong word, but, weight-related stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It pretty much has unlimited kind of potential for different exercises and movements. And I really enjoy finding them or figuring them out, or scrolling on Instagram and seeing, one thing that I thought was, fuck, that's all there is to know about that. And then you look and you go, fuck, if I change my angle, and position my feet here, and I just go further, like, wow, that's completely different. There's endless. Once you learn the principles of it, there's so many different planes to train, and there's different ways to do it. Different angles in relation to gravity or the floor or the bar. So yeah, I just see it as something I'll be doing forever. You know what I mean?
That's actually what you just said. It's a good segue into the next piece, which is regressing and progressing, like making something easier or harder. Which, when to paint it clearly, when you're lifting weights, you can just grab a lighter weight or a heavier weight, and the movement can stay the same. So it's quite simple in how you make it easier or harder. But with bodyweight strength training, you can do that to an extent. You could do less or more reps, or maybe you could add a bit of weight to it, like using a push-up as an example. You could put a plate on your back or something. But you could also look at that, and this is more what bodyweight strength training is really good at. You can progress it or regress it by changing the actual exercise. So you could go, instead of it's a push-up that we're developing, but you could, like you noticed, Paulie, you said pulling. Like you described a category of your strength, which is pulling. You didn't describe an exercise. You described a category, which within that is infinite amount of different pulling-based exercises. So I think that's a really relevant thing to talk about, is like, to be good at bodyweight strength training and to kind of master it in a sense, you have to understand how these progressions and like how these exercises all fit together. Otherwise, you know, you can see the guy that just does bodyweight squats and push-ups and chin-ups. Like, okay, you do that, but where does it go?
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk to me about that idea of it, and about how, like, say how you use that within the, you know, the mastery system.
So I don't know. I guess I started training with you, Joe, and then T, and with, you know, the Jungle Brothers gym, and along the way I picked up strength training, bodyweight strength training, and then, you know, we did a bunch of gymnastics strength training, and it's all mixed in now. Dabbled in a few books as references, but generally speaking, we categorize into a couple of different categories. We got and the thing is with bodyweight training, I guess we're talking largely about the upper body development.
Primarily.
There's lower body also, and I guess we're talking about gymnastic strength, gymnastics-y stuff, and calisthenics. Obviously, there's martial arts and what I was saying before, and tricking and getting your legs strong and pliable and that sort of thing. But for simplicity, like, you can only develop your legs so far without using weight, because they're just built different for different endurance and strength, for different functions, I think, in the body. But when we're looking at the bodyweight strength, it's all happening through the trunk and the shoulders. And in that area, you've got your shoulders moving in push and pull patterns. Those patterns can be divided into straight arm pushing and straight arm pulling, and bent arm pushing and bent arm pulling. And that's how we've got our bodyweight program split into those sorts of masteries. Push and pull straight arm, that's 2 categories. Push and pull bent arm, that's 2 other categories. There's a lot of things to develop. You know, there's the trunk and flexing forward, side bending, and back arching, and the legs and everything in between. And
handstands, even though it's a push straight, it often becomes its own kind of category.
And it is its own one in our program. And that's a challenge, trying to put it all into context and figure it out. But largely we're looking at push, pull, both in straight and bent arm columns. We used to have a trunk column. We're experimenting with leaving that out and threading that into everything else that we do inside of the program in a different kind of way. Then there is a handstand mastery ladder as well, which it's really cool. I think it deserves its own little column there. It's a straight arm pressing kind of movement, as you mentioned, that's overhead. And it deserves its own one, not just because people really enjoy it and it's fun. And, it's just fucking heaps of fun. But generally, the health of people's shoulders in that position is really poor in the West, I guess, and probably all around the world, just simply because we don't use the arms overhead with load much anymore. We don't swing in the trees, and we're not walking around upside down. So a lot of people's shoulder problems kind of stems from posture and having the shoulder open and overhead. So the journey to a handstand is really good for health, because you have to address a whole bunch of things. So we have it in the gym here, and whether you're trying to get a handstand or not, you're developing a very important portion of your upper back and your shoulders and the mobility of those shoulders and your thoracic, etc. So, that has its own column as well.
And so I guess what I see when I look at, actually, my example will be when I coach people who don't train here. So when you get someone that comes in, they're like, oh, hey, I want to, do some stuff. They're often kind of blown away at some of the seemingly unique progressions that I'll use to build something. So, let's work on this. Let's work on this. Like, oh man, ring dips kill my shoulder. Oh, well, have you tried like regular dips, or have you tried like deficit push-ups, or maybe like an elevated ring push-up, which are all very similar, but just getting progressively easier. And people are like, oh no, just doing more ring dips, but it's like, if you can understand these progressions and regressions, you can understand these exercises and have them in your kind of arsenal, then it just enables you to develop. It enables you to make someone stronger, like on a continuing basis, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Because it's not like, oh, hey, well, it's ring dips today and that's what everyone's doing.
Yep.
You can say, no, you need to just get push-ups first. Like, that's where you're at. You can do some weighted ring dips because you're a savage. Like, you've just got options.
Yeah, and if you've got that injury, it's like, where's the injury? What happened? This is a progression where you can work perfectly hard, and you're not making it any worse. And whatever can help you develop while you're rehabbing that or something, and you're still on the path.
I did 4 sets of 10 push-ups on Wednesday morning because I injured my shoulder a bit last week.
Wow.
And just couldn't do anything with it really for about a week. And then Wednesday I was like, try some push-ups. And I just did 4 sets of 10, slow. And man, my pecs were toasted like yesterday, but I was like, that was really good. But, that's just an idea of like, okay, I'm probably not really working on push-ups much these days. Like, I can do that. But yeah, to your point, while injured, that became the perfect regression for me.
That's so funny because the other day I did 3 sets of 15 because I injured my shoulder when I was on holidays. I was sleeping on a bed with 2 big boys, my sons.
Yeah. And
I just slept in that slouchy shoulder roll position. I was like, oh, my shoulder's fucking sore. This is terrible. And Caleb, a friend, we were away on holidays. He's like, let's go do swole at the gym. And I was like, this is a bad idea. We went and did chest up at Ballina, and we did drop sets with the fucking dumbbells.
Oh. Well, like chest press?
Chest press.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, he's got the ladder, and you're doing the last set, the drop set. And I was like, this is not good.
Oh, because you're just working your way through all the dumbbells.
Yeah. We went, what did we do? We went up the ladder. So it was like 4 sets getting progressively heavier.
Yeah.
8 to 12. And then it was a drop set for your last set.
Oh, God.
So it was just like they're there and you're dropping them and they're just putting them in your hands. But yeah, it's so exactly, like, I know dips aren't good when I'm just a bit aggravated at the front. So it's like push-ups. And I've did my push-ups. I've got a program at the moment. As an example, I've got a bodyweight goal on the rings, and it's going to take a lot of work to get there. And I was just writing the program for it, and there's big portions of it I can't do while the shoulder's just like this. But I'm ticking that box because I did the push-ups, because I just find a different progression for it to keep developing that muscle, to give the front of the shoulder a bit of exposure while it's rehabbing.
Yeah.
I put it in a comfortable position, nothing crazy.
Yeah. That's smart. And it's I think there's a mindset piece there where it's like, yeah, I'm not doing exactly the kind of exercise that I want to be doing to move towards my goal. But I'm not completely turning my back on it either. Like, I'm still visiting that capacity, to a lighter degree.
Yeah.
So I'm keeping something going there.
Exactly.
So that's huge for listeners, understanding how what exercises are a form of regression and what are a form of progression for whatever it is you're working on is really integral. And I would say, like, if you're a bit stuck with that, it's where you want to start learning more. You want to read books on it. You want to get a coach. You want to go through it with them. Because once you understand these things, like, okay, I can start to roadmap my way towards whatever bodyweight goal you want.
Yeah, fucking oath. It's like trying to cook a curry for friends and not looking up a recipe type of thing. It's, and I guess...
It's going to be a shit curry.
Yeah, like, exercise is free and you can just go do it. And it's somewhat... Those patterns are somewhat inside of us. But you fucking sit at a desk all the time and your shoulders are slouched and, yeah.
That's right. You've fallen You've really fallen a long way. We say we're looking at humanity.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Talk to me about time under tension. This is third point.
I don't know.
Well, to start it off, I guess the thing that's often not considered is there's an amount of time under tension that's required in order to get enough stimulus to make a change. Right? So time under tension, whatever. Like, if I'm doing chin-ups, there's time under tension when I'm going through lowering and pulling. Yep. But also if I was just doing a static holding at the top, there's time under tension there. It's usually inherently built into our rep ranges and sets. Right? So tell me, like,
Here,
say...
you mean?
Well, yeah, here, but I would say any good strength program...
Yes.
We'll just stick to like, we're doing whatever. Something that most people are familiar with. Yeah, we're doing 5 sets of 5.
Yep.
And then we're going to do a similar exercise, but 4 sets of 10.
Yep.
And then we'll finish with a couple sets of 15.
Yes.
And you're like, well, that sounds like a pretty good generic format.
Yeah.
The time under tension's built into it.
Yep.
Well, like, what are you following with you developing your pull stuff?
Yep.
Break down what a session might look like in terms of like those rep ranges.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Time and attention, it's one of those variables, and in training, there's all the different variables, and as a coach, depending on how you set those variables, you can get different outcomes, and that's one that's overlooked a lot of the time. I'll use time under tension definitely for people who are learning, who I'm trying to build some base strength, so that they can get strong throughout the whole range, and they can also do it slowly, like with a slow tempo, purely so that they can get the motor control right. But then, you can use time and attention, increasing it and decreasing it for muscle building or for making something heavier, for sure. So it's how long have you got the muscle under tension in any part of the range. So for you're in one set of 10 reps, you're going to be, maybe it's 3 seconds a rep. You could just say that, it's about 30 seconds of time under tension over the whole set. And then you can, if you want to increase reps, right? Yeah. But if you want to get more specific, you can also put more time and attention in specific parts of that rep. And that's what you were saying with the holds and stuff. Yeah. So we'll often use that to build strength in a weak position, or a position that you're trying to get really, really strong at for that particular movement. Example for me that makes me think about it is I've got this ring transition, and it's transition. So I need to be strong in position A and then position B. And right now I'm really strong in both. But going through from A to B, there's like a completely different position. And I never spend much time under tension there at the moment. And to build that, I went and I was like, okay, I'm just going to try this transition. Flop. Just didn't make it. Balancing on the rings. So now I build into my program those specific angles that I'm weak, and I'm spending time under tension there. Yeah, okay. So I can get that strong. I'll do reps that are slow between A and B, as well as just time in the weakest point of that. I know where the weakest point is. Like a hold there. A hold, yep. Yeah, yep. Right on. Yep. Is that a good example of how you apply that? Absolutely. Yep. And to elaborate on your point about like you could add reps. So like, say you're doing push-ups. Yep. You want to like make it more challenging. Well, you could increase the time under tension by doing more reps. You go, hey, let's do 12. Mm-hmm. Or you could say, all right, let's do a 5-second lowering. Mm-hmm. And then a 1 second hold, and then push. Yes. And like all of a sudden, each rep is 6 seconds. Mm-hmm. 8 sixes for those of you with a calculator out there. Figure that shit out. But you slow it down. You haven't had to add reps, mm-hmm. but you've instantly made it harder. Mm. I think that's a huge. Like, if I'm to highlight like one thing that I feel like people who are kind of battling out the gym or the strength training by themselves, bodyweight stuff, and where I see them go wrong. There's no manipulation of tempo. Totally. And a manipulation of tempo is also doing a static hold, like you said. Like, maybe it's a 5-second hold in the bottom of the push-up, Yes.
and then pressing out. Like, that's going to be really fucking hard. You're under load the whole time. I think that's such a cool variable to play with, and I think it's so effective. Like, you can give it to someone who's like, like the standard kind of 20-something-year-old guy is like, yeah, I can do push-ups all day. As soon as you get them to do it slow the way we do it, it's like, man, they're gassed after 8.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that is the one thing, if people could get a better grasp on it, they can accelerate results just by manipulating that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And moving into this new bodyweight ladders, I've been more specific about that through all of the rungs. So I have prescribed tempos on, probably 80% of what's up there for the moving reps, not the holds, obviously. But yeah, it's basically, because what's 15 reps? 15 reps could be 1 second a rep, or it could be 3 seconds a rep.
Yeah.
It's a big difference, right? And, you're usually using a bit of power and completely missing tension in the middle range, especially when you're coming down.
Yeah.
People don't do that eccentric shit.
People need a parachute for that section.
Yes, drag parachute. But yeah, you're right. It's probably one of those big ones that any blojo that's in the park would really benefit on, is like, fucking change this variable up.
I actually remember, handy tip, when I did a workshop that was run by Fitness FAQs and Sci Monster after Electric Gardens that year. T and I went to it.
The day after, hey?
It was the day after, the Bodyweight Blueprint. Yeah, it was actually cool once we were there, but getting there, I was like, oh man, I don't know about this. But really good recommendation from there, and they were very scientific about everything they do, because they're both pretty geeky on the training front. But they were like, if you're doing holds of an exercise, 1 minute, like 60 to 90 seconds per workout is what you need to progress. And you could do that 2-3 times per week. So I like that. It was like, oh, yeah, okay, like a minute, like say front lever.
Yeah.
6 sets of 10 seconds. That's a minute.
Yes.
Do that a couple times a week, you'll get stronger.
Yeah. That's a magic one. I love that. What is it? 5 sets, 10 to 20 seconds was also, that's, what is that? 50 to fucking 100 seconds.
Yep.
Yeah. Work up. I was always told that work up to 100 seconds in a position before making it harder.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
That was Marco who put that for me. And I stuck with that because it's worked.
Yeah, right. Before progressing it.
Yeah. If you want to be really strict at it.
Yeah.
So you've mastered it before going up. But you could do it for 4 sets, and then you're just going to struggle a bit harder when you make it heavier. But yeah, it's very similar piece, and I'm sure it's come from good science.
Yeah.
And they're fucking monsters, those guys.
Well, funny when you look at the EDO programming, it's like 45 minutes of time under tension per workout.
Hey,
like there's so many sets, so many holds.
I think
if you can survive it, it'll make you strong.
That's some circ programming.
Yeah, I suppose. But I don't know. I question that even. Just because there's a lot of really good folks out there, performers and stuff, who are doing way less but achieving more. In any case, we digress. But that's a nice way for you to frame it. So like for, listening, like say a couple of the really simple movements that not simple, like not easy, but common movements that you see, which are holds and L-sit. You see those quite a bit. You see a chest to bar hold. See that quite a bit. You see like a support, like up on the rings, elbows locked, pushing down. For someone who's like new to those, apply that to your training. Go, I'm going to do 5 sets of 10 to 20 seconds. A couple times a week, you will undoubtedly get stronger at the thing.
Absolutely.
Last piece I want to touch on before we wrap it up is this other form of regression or progression, which is assistance. And so this is, you can do it to yourself. You can place your feet on the ground, whatever.
Yep.
You could hold on to something to balance yourself, or you could get a spot from someone, or you could use a band.
Yep.
There are good and bad ways to approach this, but can you give me a bit of an overview of how they fit into the scheme of things?
My opinion is, like use all of those things. They're all useful, but as you said, there's better ways to do it and there's bad ways to do it. Not against using bands. Definitely you need support. I guess especially with skilled movements, I think support is essential throughout the journey, because they might need some balance, and often they're hard, maybe because you're upside down or because it's really intense and heavy, that you want to take support enough that you can be training in a good position. And it's really all about, what is it? Perfect practice makes perfect sort of thing.
Right, yep.
You don't want to be doing shitty reps ever if you want to keep progressing and you want to have healthy shoulders and a healthy body. So I've never really had an ego with training, so I don't mind. I always hold myself back a bit, I think, from observation. I like to do it really well. Also, I've had tragic shoulders, just like always getting injured and stuff, so I always err on the side of caution. I take what support I need, so that I can be in a good, healthy position for my shoulders. Support's definitely good. The other piece with it is, especially with the skill stuff, is taking support so you can work out the pattern of the movement. So you make it light enough at first that you can not just have your shoulders in a good position, but you're tracking your hips and your shoulders overall in the movement pattern that's required.
Yep.
So you can take enough support or make it light enough so that you can nail that before adding weight.
You can feel it.
You can feel it. And then coming to something like this morning, I had Nick in here, can't do a skin the cat, so he can't pull up with straight arms. And we'd been doing some offset hangs and inverted offset hangs and then eccentrics. And then I showed him today like how to pull yourself in using a bit of momentum. And it's just hanging, tuck your knees and pull the lever at the right time and you can make it through. Yep. Couldn't make it through, but I spotted him through that sticky point. And in that, with the spotting there, I kind of had hands on him so he's not afraid, because going upside down for some people is a bit of a thing.
Yep.
So there's a safety element. And then I just kind of helped him map out the path for that movement, and he did it again and he more or less did it himself. But, it helps a lot with the stuff that we do here with the skill bits, is like getting people to spend some time in it. Supporting them through the hard bits, because they're always like, often they're a bit strong through some range, but not through other bits. So I think spotting is definitely a part of the journey. It should be used, but you got to do it well. So if I can find a coach, get some good advice. What do you think about spotting?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's so. I do think it's a hard one to like for a beginner or for someone who's it's you're not going to know when and how. It's such a there's such a delicate balance to doing it, because if you knowing how to spot somebody well or to provide assistance at the right time will just give them that 1 or 3% to be able to get through that sticking point, as you said, which allows them to just push their perimeter a little bit and go, I can taste it now.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's cool, let's keep working the spot. And you might do that for whatever reps, or you might do it for weeks and gradually, you remove the spot. But for someone who's assisting there that has no idea and they just give you 40% and they're just pushing you through the whole movement.
Yes, yeah.
And I think like anyone that's got half an idea about their training or has experienced a bit of bodyweight stuff, they can probably remember when someone spotted them. Even with weightlifting, you're trying to do a bench or something and someone spots you too overzealously and they take all the weight and you're like, man, you just fucked up my set. I just got to the bit where the work was happening and you took it from me.
Yes, yeah.
So there's a real art to it.
Yeah, there is. I can think of heaps of examples where if you're spotting with your feet, how you spot yourself, and where you put the feet in relation to the movement, completely changes it.
Yeah, I mean, we're always in a class situation when you show people, hey guys, what's a good example? Hey, if you can't do a chin up, if you're not ready to hang off the bar with your full body weight yet, the ring pull up, the ring S pull we've done in the past. So it's basically you're doing a chin up on some rings, but you've got your feet on the ground and you're just up on your toes and you're right on the tip of your toes because you're only really using like your feet to hold a very small percent of your body weight. And it should remain that way through the whole rep, which means your upper body is working super hard. It's like a 98 or 99% body weight chin up. But you see, as soon as you teach that to a group of people, oh, everyone got it? I fucking told you guys, only 1% in the feet. Then you see people with just like flat feet, just like banging out reps, and they're looking at you like, I don't get it. Where's the exercise here? And it's like, fuck yeah, there's so much, I don't know, there's a skill in itself to being able to grasp an exercise like that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So you got to be as a coach, you got to be careful about when you give that to someone, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fucking totally a craft. Now that I think about the little nuances with spotting, how to spot yourself, just, how you hold on to something, whether it's pinching, the pinch grip, or a couple of fingers, or what are you spotting for?
Oh, yeah.
Is it spotting for balance, or is it spotting for strength?
Yeah.
It's just, it's a real art.
It's a really good point. So yeah, that one's like, it's not something you can immediately master, but it's something you're going to need to explore, especially if you want to get into the more tricky bodyweight strength movements. There's times when it's just absolutely inappropriate. One of those times for me, generally speaking, is when you see complete beginners grab a big heavy band and put it around their feet and do pull-ups. I'm like, there can be. I don't think pull-ups ever need to be banded personally, though I know they can be used effectively. But you see a huge overuse of people just like, bash it out with the band, do like 10 reps. And the band just removes any kind of benefit that person might be getting. And so instead of spending time on the thing that's going to get them to that next stage, they're just like bypassing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See that a lot.
Yeah. And I say that because I do know that, we use it here sometimes in Swole.
Yep.
It can have a place.
Yep.
Just not when I'm on duty.
Get ripped by Joe.
That's like ripped as in me rip into you?
Yeah, you rip into him.
Fucking, mate, what are you using that shit for?
Shit.
Get down. Get out.
Get out.
Get out. So I think that's a pretty good summary of the bodyweight strength piece. I would sort of wrap by saying that if you're new to the game, you don't need to worry too much about that stuff. All you got to do is show up to the place where they're telling you what to do. Come to a gym like ours, gym like Jungle Ballina, even if it's just a friend that you're training with at an outdoor gym. Like if you're just doing sets and reps and you're trying to stay controlled, you're going to get there. But there is going to come a time where you're going to need to understand, because you're at the very bottom rung, right, when you're new to it. But there is going to come a time where, those basics aren't doing it for you anymore. You're going to need to take steps forward and understanding some of these variables, time under tension, range of motion,
exercise progressions.
Yeah, like knowing that's that huge. Stuff, that's what's going to get you to that next level.
Yep.
Until you become a bodyweight master.
Alpha.
You'll be able to come to when you've reached that status, you can come to the Jungle Brothers gym, and if you're lucky, you might be halfway towards alpha status by our movement milestones poster.
If you're lucky, Joe will rip into you.
Yeah. What are you doing here, dweeb?
You're like, yes, he noticed me. He ripped me.
Awesome. We'll wrap it there. Thanks, bro.
That was fun. That was good chat.
Yeah, it was good. There's a lot of stuff that goes into the programming, and I know that you've had your head in it lately, so I thought it'd be good to try and get some of that out.
Awesome.
Fam, hope you enjoyed that. If you did like the episode, please share it with someone that you know. Share it with the weakest friend that you have. Go, you know what, man? I think you need some help with your bodyweight strength training. Here's what the boys had to say. Listen to this episode. But it really does help to support the show, so we'd appreciate that. Whatever platform you listen to us on, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave us a review. You can follow us on iTunes or on Spotify, but those things help to support the show as well. So if you can just tap that button, it goes a long way. And we will catch you guys next week. Thank you.
See you.
See you.